My brother showed up bragging about being my new boss, saying, "You're lucky I let you stay." I congratulated him, then he read the legal notice with my signature that erased his position. This happened a few years ago, but I still think about it sometimes. Our 38 male was working in our family business, a manufacturing company based in the Midwest. My dad started it from scratch, and I joined right after college. I worked my way up, learning every aspect of the business. My younger brother, let's call him Mike 35 male, was always the charismatic one. He tried various ventures, real estate, tech startups, you name it, but nothing stuck. He was in and out of jobs, always chasing the next big thing. When our dad passed away, he left the business to both of us equally. I continued running the day-to-day operations, while Mike remained uninvolved. That is, until he returned to town with grand ideas and a newfound interest in the company. One morning, Mike walked into the office, grinning from ear to ear. He announced that he had appointed himself as the new CEO, citing his equal ownership as justification. He looked me in the eye and said, "You're lucky I let you stay." I was taken aback but kept my composure. I congratulated him on his new position and suggested we discuss his plans over lunch. He agreed, clearly enjoying his perceived upper hand. Over lunch, I handed him an envelope containing a legal notice. He opened it, his expression shifting from confidence to confusion, then to rage. The document outlined a clause in our father's will that stipulated any major changes in company leadership required unanimous consent from both heirs. Furthermore, it included a signed agreement, dated and notarized, in which Mike had previously relinquished his decision-making rights in exchange for a financial bailout I had provided during one of his failed ventures. He looked up, speechless. I calmly explained, "You may own half the company, but you gave up your authority to make unilateral decisions. Your appointment as CEO is null and void." Mike stormed out, furious. He attempted to challenge the agreement in court, but the evidence was clear and legally binding. His claim was dismissed, and he was left with no say in the company's operations. In the following months, he tried to sabotage the business by spreading false rumors and attempting to poach clients. However, our community's loyalty and the company's solid reputation rendered his efforts ineffective. It's been a year since that incident. The company continues to thrive, and I've implemented policies to prevent such power plays in the future. Mike and I no longer speak, a painful but necessary outcome. This experience taught me the importance of foresight and legal preparedness. Family and business can be a volatile mix, but with clear boundaries and documentation, it's possible to protect both. About 3 months after Mike's failed attempt to take over, things got quiet. Too quiet. I knew him well enough to know that he wasn't just going to fade into the background. He always played the long game when it came to revenge. And sure enough, the silence didn't last. One morning I walked into the office and found 3 of my department heads standing near the coffee machine, whispering. When they saw me, they scattered like roaches. I thought it was just morning gossip, but within a week, 2 of them handed in their resignations without notice. No warning. No reason. A few days later, our biggest supplier pulled out of a deal we'd been negotiating for months. No explanation. Just a cold, formal email saying they'd decided to go in a different direction. I was stunned. We had a good relationship. I called the rep I'd worked with for years, and he wouldn't even return my messages. Then came the anonymous email tips. Stuff like, "Check your books. You'll find something interesting. Your office manager isn't who you think she is. He's smarter than you give him credit for." At first, I dismissed them as spam, but something didn't sit right. I started digging. Turns out Mike had hired a private investigator and was feeding dirt to our competitors. He had somehow gotten access to internal company reports, stuff only someone on the inside would have. That's when it hit me. Someone in my office was leaking info. I locked down the servers, changed all passwords, installed surveillance cameras. I also hired my own investigator. It didn't take long to find the mole, our new HR assistant. She was quietly forwarding emails and reports to an unknown address. She confessed after 2 hours of questioning and a threat of legal action. She had been paid under the table by Mike. I fired her on the spot, but the damage was done. We lost a couple of smaller clients because of the leaks. Nothing catastrophic, but it hurt. I was angry. Really angry. I called Mike, didn't even try to hide my rage. I asked him if he wanted to destroy the company our dad built just to get back at me. He laughed. Not the kind of laugh that said he was joking. The kind that chilled your spine. This isn't about the company, he said. It's about you learning your place. I hung up without saying a word. I knew then this was going to get uglier. But I wasn't going to just sit back and let it happen. I started making moves quietly. No more waiting for him to screw up. I had to stay 3 steps ahead. I hired a security consultant to do a full audit of our systems and physical office space. Turns out there were bugs, actual listening devices, in 2 conference rooms. Hidden behind light panels. And yes, Mike's fingerprints were all over that too. He had paid someone to install them during off hours. That was when I made the choice to go nuclear. I called a friend of mine who specialized in corporate forensics and white-collar legal warfare. I didn't want just to stop Mike. I wanted to strip him of every inch of influence he had left. Not out of spite, okay, maybe a little, but mostly to protect everything my father had built and everything I had worked for. What came next was the beginning of the real fight. One that would take months of planning, patience, and a whole lot of restraint. I started gathering everything. Financial records. Old contracts. That bailout agreement. Phone logs. I kept every email, every text, every voice message he left when he got cocky or careless. My lawyer said it was starting to look like I was building a RICO case. I wasn't even surprised at that point. And right when I was preparing the final move, something else hit the fan. A journalist showed up at my office. She had gotten wind of irregularities at the company and wanted to talk. At first I panicked, assuming Mike had reached out to the press to humiliate me. But after talking to her for 15 minutes, I realized something worse. She didn't come for me. She came for him. Apparently, Mike had done more than sabotage the company. He'd burned bridges everywhere. A failed startup where investors lost 6 figures. A shady real estate deal involving a fake partner. Lawsuits that had been quietly settled with NDA clauses. And now someone was talking. This could either be the perfect storm, or a total mess depending on how I played it. I sat back in my chair, watching the journalist scribble notes, wondering how deep this thing went. I thought I knew my brother. Turns out, I barely scratched the surface. I wasn't just dealing with a spoiled sibling throwing a tantrum. I was up against a con artist with nothing left to lose. And the next move had to count. So the journalist kept digging. I gave her a few tips off the record, nothing that would trace back to me. Just enough to keep her on the scent. I didn't trust her, but I needed another angle to pressure Mike. If she exposed him first, great. If not, I had my own plan brewing in the background. A few days after she visited, I got a subpoena. At first, I thought it was related to Mike's games. But no, it was a different beast altogether. Someone was accusing the company of tax fraud. Now I run a tight operation. Always have. I don't mess around with the IRS. So this caught me off guard. The paperwork named the company, but listed Mike's name as acting financial officer, a title he never legally had. And the complaint dated back to just a month after our dad passed away. The timing was suspicious. My accountant was losing her mind trying to figure out where the numbers had come from. She couldn't match them to anything in our books. That's when I remembered, the week after Dad's funeral, Mike had stayed late at the office a few times. Said he was just going through Dad's old stuff. He had gotten into our financial archives. He must have forged reports, created fake numbers, and sent them in anonymously, just waiting for the perfect time to use them. The idea was clear: if the company got flagged, I'd be the one under investigation. Not him. So now I was juggling a federal investigation and a personal war. My lawyer told me we needed to go on the offensive. We filed a formal motion to identify the original source of the tax fraud claim, citing malicious intent. Meanwhile, the journalist published her piece. She didn't hold back. She exposed everything: the failed companies, the lawsuits, the hidden debts. She even found a former business partner who accused Mike of stealing funds from a joint venture. The article went viral in the local business community. Overnight, Mike became poison. But that didn't stop him. He showed up at the office 2 days later. I was in a meeting when he barged in like he still had the right. Everyone in the room froze. He looked like hell, disheveled, eyes bloodshot. He pointed at me and said, "You've crossed the line." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, waiting. He slammed a folder on the table. "You think you're so smart? You want war? You've got it." He walked out. Inside the folder were copies of emails. Not mine, our CFO's. Stuff about bonuses, budgeting, cash flow reports. At first glance, nothing seemed illegal. But then I noticed a few messages had been manipulated. Timelines changed. Wordings altered. It was subtle, but dangerous if presented out of context. He was trying to frame one of my most loyal employees for embezzlement. That was the moment I realized Mike wasn't just playing dirty. He was desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. We brought in a digital forensics expert. Confirmed the emails had been altered using a spoofing software. That gave us leverage, not just to protect the company, but to finally involve law enforcement. My lawyer handed everything to the state attorney general's office. We made a formal complaint against Mike for corporate sabotage, fraud, and obstruction. Then something even more unexpected happened. Mike disappeared. His apartment was empty. Phone disconnected. His car was found abandoned in a parking garage in Chicago. No one had seen him. Not his ex. Not his friends. Not even his old business contacts. At first, I figured he ran. Too many walls closing in. Then I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a typed note on cheap printer paper. "All this because you couldn't step aside. You'll regret it." That was it. No signature. But I knew it was him. Now I checked my locks twice. I installed cameras at home. I changed my routines. I don't go anywhere without telling someone. Because Mike's not just my brother anymore. He's a threat with nothing to lose. And I still don't know what his endgame is. Weeks passed, and still no sign of Mike. He'd vanished without a trace, but I couldn't shake the feeling he was watching everything, just waiting for the right moment. The letter had messed with my head more than I wanted to admit. I was sleeping with one eye open. My lawyer said we had enough to press charges, but if he didn't show up, none of it mattered. You can't jail a ghost. Then, about 6 weeks later, I got a call from a woman I didn't know. Said her name was Cassandra and she needed to speak to me in person. She wouldn't say why over the phone. I was about to hang up when she dropped Mike's name. We met at a diner on the edge of town. She looked tired, nervous, like she hadn't slept much. She told me she had been seeing Mike. Said they met during one of his business trips to New York and that he told her I stole everything from him. She believed him, at first. But things changed. She saw the article. Read the court filings. Started putting the pieces together. And then, one night, he got drunk and spilled too much. Told her he planted fake documents in our company servers. Admitted he forged IRS reports. He even bragged about making one of our former employees disappear after they refused to cooperate. She left him the next morning. Took his laptop and a flash drive full of backups. Drove all the way here just to hand it to me. That flash drive was a goldmine. It had emails, recordings, even a voice memo of him laughing while explaining how he framed our CFO. It was everything we needed. We turned it all over to the state. A warrant went out for Mike's arrest. 2 days later, He was found in a seedy motel in St. Louis. Armed. Paranoid. High on something. He didn't go quietly. He tried to run, took a swing at a cop, and ended up tasered in the parking lot. They charged him with corporate fraud, evidence tampering, harassment, tax evasion, and obstruction of justice. He's facing over 30 years. They denied bail. I went to one of the hearings. He wouldn't look at me. Just sat there in a wrinkled jumpsuit, eyes hollow. He looked like a man who'd finally realized the game was over. But here's the twist. While all this was happening, I was forced to admit my own mistakes. I had ignored red flags for years. Gave him second, third, 10th chances. I thought loyalty meant letting him crash and burn over and over again while I cleaned up the mess. I called it family. Truth is, it was fear. Fear of letting go. Fear of what it would mean if I admitted my own brother was poison. That fear almost destroyed the company. And it nearly destroyed me. I went to the board, yes, we had a board by then, and stepped down as CEO. Temporarily. I needed space. I needed to rebuild, not the business, but myself. I appointed my second in command, the one Mike had tried to frame, to take over. She deserved it. She was smarter, calmer, and more focused than I ever was in that chair. Mike's trial is next month. He sent me one last letter from jail. No threats this time. Just a single sentence written in shaky handwriting. I just wanted to be better than you once. I didn't write back. Because now I know, he never really wanted to build anything. He only wanted to break what I had. And for the first time in years, I'm finally okay with letting go of the pieces he left behind.